A Barbecue Central Show exclusive news update.
Hey, greetings, everybody. Greg Rempe here, and I am bringing you a breaking extra podcast bonus content podcast. Not to be redundant, I did a appearance on Chad Ward's show, Whisky Bent BBQ in the Pit, which precedes my show from 7 to 9 on Outdoor Cooking Channel. And in case you didn't get his replay of it, I wanted to stick it on my feed. So sit back, relax, and listen to the tables getting turned. Rarely am I interviewed, so I am very honored and happy and respectful of somebody asking me. And, of course, I'd rather do nobody else's show than Chad's, who has kind of come up in the ranks with me over the years in podcasting as it relates to the industry of barbecue and grilling. So without further ado, it's me, it's Chad, it's Griff, it's also Tim Malloy, who was a guest host on Chad's show as well. Enjoy, everybody.
Greg, hello. Please don't tell me I can't hear him.
Hey, Chad.
Hey, thank you, man. Dude, I sat here and played with this audio for 45 minutes before the show, and I'm like, dude, you got to make sure you're here. And I know, dude, there is no on you like when you go to the Greg Rempe show. There's a really good-looking sounding lady that says, will you hold for Greg, please?
It says that?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Of course, man. You gotta step it up a notch.
Hey, we're working on it, man.
It was like getting ready for the prom, man. Most focus I've seen him in a long time.
No, it is funny when you talk about you got to step your game up a little bit. Griff and the show open was kidding around about, man, I wish Greg had that soundbite from when he welcomed us to Outdoor Cooking Channel, because he still loves that line about, well, at least you left from the 70s porn line and Blog Talk Radio.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that should consider that have, it doesn't have to be barbecue shows or grilling shows. I mean, if it's outdoor cooking,
yeah,
there's a lot of shows out there on Blog Talk Radio that really could do themselves a service by getting in contact with Kevin Bevington and taking it. That should be the New Year's resolution for everybody to stop sucking and sound like they're calling in their phone show, because guess what? They're calling in a phone show and it sounds like crap and they sound like crap. I mean, it's like you just poked into a 1970s party line, hardline style, man. It's the worst.
That's it. That's the line right there, Greg.
I mean, give me a break.
But no, you're absolutely correct, and I think for people to understand too, it probably for me to come over to Kevin's show, I mean, just equipment wise, and he made it really easy for us. I was maybe into it like $300, but the sound quality is 100 times better.
Oh yeah,
and the fact that you got a real chat feature, you've got, well, spoiler alert, you got video.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to see this mug every week? I mean, honestly, and so yeah, I mean, all the way around, and I mean, and the fact of the way Kevin's content runs, we're always out there. So yeah, for anybody out there that's got something that's anything food related, reach out to Kevin over there at Outdoor Cooking Channel, and he'll get you hooked up, and maybe one day you'll be a big star as Greg Rempe. That's what pulled me over here.
Yeah, right. That's got to be the biggest attractor, right?
Well, it was. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to give Boy Crush this whole interview, right. But I am going to give credit where credit is due.
Kevin gets on to us for doing a love fest, man. Turn it down a little bit. Let me ask you this, Greg. What about Howard Stern when he was doing his, I'm not going to re-sign with Sirius and all this? He made a statement that anybody that does podcasts is losers. How do you feel about that?
How did I feel about him re-signing?
No. How do you feel about him saying that people that do podcast radio are losers? They're not.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that if he still has any interest doing his show after this next 5 years is over, then I think he says a lot of that just to keep people on
Sure.
his station, right? So, I mean, obviously you can see podcasting is very popular. You have Adam Carolla, you have, I mean, whoever else, all the comedians, everybody's got that's the thing right now. Everybody's got a podcast. So there's something to it. can you imagine if we're talking about straight cash, which we're all business guys here, so that's what we want to talk about, right? He's making a lot of money at Sirius, no doubt about it. If he told Sirius, forget it, I'm not going to resign, and then did his own show just like this each and every morning and got the bandwidth together, and then he charged people a subscription to his show every month or yearly, he would take all that money. It would be a huge payday, man.
Or does he even have to take money from the listeners? Or does he just take that advertising revenue straight to the head?
Well, yeah, but
instead of carving it up with Sirius,
he could eliminate all of the advertising. I mean, that was the thing that brought me over. I was going to go regardless, but I was like, wow, now we can have hours on end of commercial-free Howard Stern. But in the end, he's a money bag, right? So everybody wants to pay money. Everybody wants to be on his show. Sirius wants to make more money. So inevitably there's commercials. Now, it's not the same as it used to be on terrestrial radio where every 20 minutes you had to duck off and you were, depending on when you got it in the car, you either heard only commercials all the way driving to work or, you lucked out and you got Howard Stern for that block. It's not like that anymore, but there's still commercials. So he could do away with the commercials and just have that subscription money to himself. He would sound great. He wouldn't sound any different or any worse if he was doing it just like this show. If he would do it, he could do it from his house, for crying out loud. I'm in my basement. Come on, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money out there.
Yeah. No, that's actually a great point. And how many people, what would be curious to me, Greg, is what's the number of people that keep a Sirius subscription because of Howard Stern?
Oh, it's huge. It's got to be high double digits.
Are you?
Yeah.
Tim Malloy from Backyard Bros, which has not had the pleasure of being on the Greg Rempe show yet, but he
won $1,000.
He will be in the future. He'll have the opportunity to, maybe.
Of course.
He was saying he's one of those that keeps his subscription just because of Howard Stern.
Yeah, it's the only reason I have it. I wouldn't have it otherwise.
Oh, so there's two. I don't have Sirius, so I'm out. Griff doesn't have Sirius, so he's out. So
my 6 months subscription was up, I'm out.
So two of two. Now I will tell you, as a road warrior with some windshield time, I some rental cars have Sirius, some don't. I'm a podcast guy, man. I'm a More Stories, Jay Moore guy.
Yeah.
I'm a going back to my my Southern roots. I'm a Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast guy.
He's a good guy.
Just different guys like that. Chael Sonnen, WFC guy.
Greg Rempe podcast guy.
Well, I've always got Remps on the.
Griff, I appreciate
ever
that,
since
by
I
the way.
started traveling. I've listened to every Rempe show ever done.
I appreciate you saying that, Griff. By the way, that doesn't go unnoticed.
No, it's Malloy, Tim. I don't know if Griff would know how to download a podcast, but that was actually Tim Malloy here in studio saying he's a
thank you.
He's a
Greg, I ain't gonna lie to you.
he's a Rempe podcast guy.
Appreciate that.
So Greg, let's boil it all back for a second. And what the hell made you get into doing? I believe there were 6 or 7 of them. The first Barbecue Central show podcast. What kind of made you decide to jump into this thing?
Well, to track it back, I had moved into a house over here in Cleveland, and my wife got me a gas grill, and I had expressly cooked through the back of it, just through using it all the time, and was in the market for a new grill. And so I was getting ready to pull the trigger on like a $1,200 Gen Air stainless steel deal at Lowe's, and it had all the bells and whistles. I was very excited. And I ended up talking to my cousin, Glenn, who was at that point a barbecue caterer in Maryland. And he said, hey, have you looked at a barbecue pit? And I said, I have no idea what that is. And so he kind of educated me on what barbecue is and the different kind of pits. And he said, look, there's a handful out there that you can get for relatively small money. And if you like it, you like it. You can also buy a grill. You probably save yourself money overall compared to buying that Gen Air. And now you have 2 different ways to cook. So I did a little research, found the Weber Smoky Mountain, and my wife, Becky, bought that for me on a Father's Day. And that was my very first foray into low and slow. I had no idea how to use it. I screwed up a slab of ribs beyond recognition the very first time I used it and thought, man, I hate this thing. And before throwing it out, I went on the internet and found thevirtualweberbullet.com. And it was strictly dedicated to that cooker, and I met a whole bunch of people that taught me how to use it right. And from there, that's kind of, getting into the smoker thing. And then the Virtual Weber Bullet was kind of my internet gateway. And I got on there and was very social and was told by the administrator that I was posting too much and asking too many questions. And
what?
Yeah. And then I was like, man, that's weird, because this is a forum. You should ask questions and be free to congregate and have hobnob and so forth. And I said, well, maybe I can start my own thing. So I found a few free forums and platforms and put some stuff together and launched like myfreebulletinboard.com thing, and it started to grow. And after a couple years, I bought my own space on the internet and called it BBQ dash the number 4 dash the letter U, or BBQ for you. And then we were off and running. It was growing organically. We were getting membership, and to supplement the content, I decided to start a podcast. I had heard a little bit about it, and I did some very, very crappy podcasts. And
Dude, I listened to all of them at least twice just so I have shit to razz Greg about.
Wait, I'm telling you, I don't know if you've heard the very first handful.
Dude, there was a time where they were posted. I think it may have been on some GeoCity site.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember downloading when I first went on iTunes, I had to go download 6 podcasts, and then I started downloading the other show.
Yeah, so those 6, those were actually ones I felt good about really sending out forever. The other ones you haven't heard. Yeah. If you had, I'm telling you, next time I get to Florida, if you're in town and we meet up at in Sarasota, I'll play the very first show, and you will, after you get up from passing out on how bad it is just altogether, you'll be like, I can't even believe that this is the same guy hosting this. It's unbelievable. It's so bad that, it's so bad I should probably just put him out there and take the lumps. But, so the podcast was just a supplement to the stuff that was happening on the forum. And then there was like this big influx of barbecue podcasts. And it was just all long form. So I would interview you, and we would talk for 45 minutes or maybe an hour. And then I would section out what I felt was the best 25 to 30 minutes of that, all pre-produced, pre-recorded. And then I would post it once a week. And then there was a whole rush on barbecue podcasts that were kind of doing the same thing. And so I wanted to try live. And how does anybody find anything? They go on Google, and there was a Craigslist listing from a guy out in L.A. who said, hey, I'm starting this internet radio station, and I'm looking for hosts. So I got on with him and pitched him the idea, and he thought I was completely crazy that I would be able to host a barbecue show for 1 hour a week at that point. And I said, dude, I've been doing it for 2 years. I can do this. It's sustainable. And so we agreed and started at LA Talk Radio in 2007. In February 2007, and fast forward to where we're at today. I don't think there are many other people that have the staying power and the catalog of material that I have. I don't know if anybody has it specifically to our industry like I have, and has been able to crank it out week after week and year after year.
No, I would completely agree, and I want to hit on that here in a second. I want to go back.
So to get that perfect barbecue,
Hold on, Chad. Sorry, that's my bad.
All right, no problem. To go back to the very beginning when you're talking about burning out the back end of that $300 grill.
Yep.
So did you and Bill Rempe or Connie, did you just grow up grilling? Well, obviously you're kind of new to the smoking game. Did you guys just do a whole bunch of grilling, early on in life?
No, coming up, there was definitely no, barbecue as we know it, like smoking or whatever you want to call it. There was none of that, but there was definite grilling. Yeah, my dad had a gas grill, and there was an old school Weber kettle on the side of the house that he broke out every once in a while. But it was your standard steaks and London broils, and he did ribs on the grill, and so nothing over the top. I'm not like Southern boy that kind of grew up around it, but definitely For me, it was sitting on the back porch on the picnic table watching my dad cook over a live fire. That was more of the romantic portion of it for me. It wasn't necessarily how good was the food, because food was good. It was just that hangout time and being in the back of the house and seeing the smoke rise up and all that stuff that really kind of, got me wanting to know a little bit more about it. And then, through college, I cooked on the grill, and then obviously, where I got into the barbecue side. But it wasn't anything that was, deep Rempy tradition of, barbecue and grilling or anything like that.
Gotcha. No, and I think there's something too about, when to me it was always like, when me and a couple of my buddies had a house, together there in college, I just enjoyed it, man. I mean, I don't know if some of the listeners here have probably heard me talk about it before, but the first grill that I really had that I cooked on as mine was a Sunbeam. Yes, Sunbeam. Green. It was a green Sunbeam that my dad gave me that was a gas grill, but all the guts had died. And so I yank all the guts out, and then you have this big hole in the middle. Well, I went and got a piece of sheet metal, bended it. JB welded the sheet metal over the top of the hole, and then drilled about 6 holes in that JB in that sheet metal so that I could get airflow, and I turned it into a charcoal cooker. And I literally would just take whatever was close dated at Publix, Winn-Dixie, wherever I was shopping at while I was in college, and that's what I would cook that weekend. And that was really it. But there was something about, like you were talking about, you cooked in college, this and that. There's something about just, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sound all chauvinistic about it, but there's something about being a man where it's just kind of like, dude, you feel at peace out there with a cold beer in your hand, a set of tongs, and, and just that smell, you know what I mean? And just that atmosphere, whether it's snowing outside or it's, 95 degrees, it's just cool to be out there and be amongst it.
Yeah.
So like going back to 2007 there out there on the LA, talk radio gimmick, which I thought was, I always remember listening to the earlier shows, and you would always talk about, that if you want to listen to Hear Me Live for an hour, here's where we'll do it. Then the second hour, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Talk to people about the kind of what it takes to kind of start that up, because you were on there. So did you start out on their airwaves, or were you on your website, but also on their airwaves at the same time? How did that work?
Yeah. So initially, he was the guy in LA Talk Radio was kind of my blowtorch, if you will. So once we agreed that he felt comfortable enough to put the show on to start out with as one of the kind of the Mount Rushmore of shows, we had to figure out a way for him to connect to me in Cleveland, and then he would be able to kind of rebroadcast my signal out through his signal at LA Talk Radio. So I found a piece of software. Somehow I was able to get it installed and actually had it hooked up right. And so I got my equipment and started out. He would connect in at a certain time. We would communicate through Skype on when my signal was up, and then he would just kind of blend me in as the other show that was ending was headed out, and put me up, and we would end at 10 till the hour, and that was it. So he was the signal, basically.
Now, back then, when you were getting started, did the show before you always hit their time on the way out?
Yeah, and guess what? They had a 10-minute buffer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, shows had to end at 10 minutes till the hour. So if you went over, man, if you bled into the next show, people were pissed because you had 10 hours to wrap up. Or you had 10 minutes to wrap up.
Yeah, you were a staunch a-hole if you did that. Yeah.
Full-blown griff hole.
Yeah, a griff hole. Yeah. I like that.
Right.
No, but that's too cool. And I think, but listen to how you started with finding that piece of software and this and that. I think it's kind of what makes your show what it is today, with all the screens and animations and those type of things. You've always been that guy trying to find a way to, not just make it happen, which you did in that sense, but make it something different and make it yours and make it memorable.
Chad, honestly, I never, ever, and I've told you this 1,000 times off air, I never wanted this show to have any video component whatsoever. It was called the Barbecue Central Radio Show for a reason. I just wanted to be like on a desk and able to look all around and do whatever I was doing. But as long as there was a mic in front of my face that I could talk into, it was fine. And then over time, I kept getting emails going, hey, you should put up a webcam. And I'm like, why would I put up a webcam?
Why?
It's me. I'm talking into a microphone. And they're like, yeah, well, we want to see your face when so-and-so answers a question, or, we just want to see you. And I'm like, wow, that's so bizarre. And then Kevin called me one day, and he kind of convinced me to put on a video component. And if you go back through the archives of Outdoor Cooking Channel and go back to my first show that is labeled there, dude, it's pretty horrible. It's a very poor quality webcam, and it's like me from the bottom right shooting up my nose, and there's a brick back wall, and it's bad. Sounds good, looks real bad. And over time, he kind of coached me along and made some suggestions on how to set up backgrounds, and then I just kind of put in green screen and the studio lighting and the live video broadcast software to be able to switch screens and do all that other stuff, just to make it a little bit more visually. But yeah, I mean, so it's but I didn't go to school for this. I'm not a broadcaster. I have no broadcast training. I just kind of learned it all piece by piece over the last 8 years, and here's wherever we are now.
Yeah,
wherever that is.
That's yeah, and that's interesting to know. And I would say, I mean, I think the other thing that kind of factored in that decision for you was, as you aged, you're like, I think I'm getting better and better looking every year.
Yeah, damn
People
right.
need to see this face.
Yeah,
people need to see this face.
You don't need to convince me of that. I live it every day.
One of the things when you talk about your, and me and you talked about it on your show last week, and I've talked to you about it from when I started my show, was I've always wanted to be that Roy Firestone guy.
Yeah.
That guy that really digs down to that next layer of minutia of, detail and this and that. And some people like it, some people don't. And it's kind of tougher in today's day and age for that to be a successful type of journalism, because people are so into headlines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you really only have people's attention for this long. But I think this microcosm that we're broadcasting to of competition barbecuers, they're detail oriented. So I think that's why I still do have a good amount of listeners that like that 30, 40, 45 minute format of kind of digging into the details. At the same time, I think listening to your 8 to 12 minute, and when you have a good guest, and you'll say, hey, can we do another segment? And the listeners want to see that.
Yep.
So I say, Roy Firestone and Up Close is what was my inspiration. But I kind of know from mine and your discussions, you're a big Rome guy, man.
Yeah.
You're a Jim Rome fella.
Yep. Big Rome guy.
Love Rome.
Big Howard Stern guy. Big Bubba Love Sponge guy when he was on Sirius.
Yep.
And there's a couple local guys, local sports talk show guys that I really like here in Cleveland. And I think I kind of emulate and have extracted bits and pieces of their persona and their cadence and how they ask questions. And, a lot of the stuff that I realized when I wanted to, the goal initially, and it's not so much where it is now, and I apologize if I'm jumping questions here, but you go into the 35 and 40-minute conversations, and I structured my show out of the box once I realized it was going to steam ahead to fit a terrestrial radio clock. So yes. I couldn't do 35 and 40-minute clips. I had to hit window, and I wanted to show radio stations that, hey, I have the ability to hit time segments. I have the ability to do live reads. I have the ability to cut IDs and do all this stuff that the radio market would either not have to teach me or might find some value in not having to teach me. And obviously that hasn't happened, but it just became so much a part of the show and so much kind of a thing where, hey, if I have you on and we can do 12 or 15 minutes and you're great, I can always have you back on, and everybody's going to be like, wow, I wish I would have had a couple more minutes. Right. If you suck, I can at least get the hell out, because there has been a huge amount of suck on the show.
Well, that format also is very familiar to people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if all of a sudden I started going 35 and 40 minutes at a clip in between guests, people would probably wonder what the hell was going on. So you're right. I think there is a fan base that enjoys your style of interview and the way you're able to, as you say, dig down in the minutia and then be able to transition over and kind of get that, let's call it national level show that you might get with me, where I'm kind of trying to hit all different parts of the industry, competitor here, accessory guy here, grill maker there, meathead over here, and kind of dip in all segments, if you will.
Well, you know what always followed up close, right? Was Sports Center.
Yeah, of course, man. Stuart Scott, it's my guy.
Yeah, you know, and that to me is I've had people before say, well, I mean, do you feel like you and Greg's shows are competing? I was like, dude, we're on the same network. Yeah. No, they're not competing. I said, even when we were on Blog Talk Radio, I always talked about Greg's show and wanted people. That's the whole reason I came to Tuesday nights. Remember when we talked about it?
Yeah, that's right.
I said, dude, how cool would it be to have 4 hours of barbecue talk? And that's the whole reason I started, even when I started on Blog Talk, that's why I went from 7 to 9, because I wanted people to log off of there and then move right over to Outdoor Cooking and listen to you.
Yep.
How did you guys link up?
Me and Remps. He just.
I want to hear his
story. Chad was a fan of the show. Bottom line.
Yeah, no, go. I mean, Greg, do you remember if you want to answer it?
Geez, I mean, like, how do we meet in person?
No, well, no. I mean,
y'all get linked up. I mean, how did you discover each other or whatever? I mean.
I would tell you this, and I'll just lead with it, and then Greg can go with it from there. When I was traveling, 100,000 miles a year, I listened to Greg's shows on every flight, and I started probably, he'd been broadcasting probably a year. I mean, I really got into competition barbecue in 09 ish. And so I started listening to all his archives then. Right. And I would just tag him in tweets. Gotcha. Like, hey, about to take off, listen to at BBQ Central Radio, da-da-da-da. And I think that may have been where, I tried to advertise his stuff just because I enjoyed it. Right. And then we strung across a little bit of success, and I believe you invited me on the show for a segment, Greg.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And then we kind of did a couple segments together and kind of just got along. And when I was up in Cleveland, I said, hey, why don't you come up? We're at Matt's place, and that's where we finally kind of met.
Yep.
And then from there, it's just been it's just a cool friendship from the point of view of we have things in common, but at the same time, we have different ways of life and perspectives that we can both appreciate out of each other, if that makes any sense. Would you agree, Greg?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think another key thing that really helps solidify a long-distance friendship and potentially budding love affair is my parents were interested in seeing a barbecue competition, and they live in Sarasota, Bradenton area. And I said, geez, I know there's one in Venice, and I said, let me make a phone call, blah, blah, blah. And Chad, and at that point, we hadn't known each other for a tremendous amount of time like we do now. And he's like, yeah, man, just have him come down, have him show up at this time. And I was very sure to tell my parents, look, don't go in with any expectation. Just kind of hang back. It's very competitive. Just kind of look around, and whatever they tell you can do is fine, but don't just assume you can kind of knock around and make it your own place. And man, I mean, they got back from that event, which, did you guys win that one or like come in second place? Or?
We took reserve. Yeah.
And they came back with food and just stories upon stories. I think I sent
Bill Rimpey home with a trophy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was just like they were so awesome though. We had such a good time.
Oh, they still rave about how great it was and how hospitable everybody on the team was and how welcome they were felt. So I mean, after that, you do that for my family, and you're pretty much gold with me till the end of time. So that was a huge thing as well, and it's just been a great both professional and personal relationship over the last handful of years that's grown, and I can contact Chad to come on my show and give his perspective. And I'm very grateful that you're allowing me time on your show tonight to kind of have it on the other end here.
No, man. Absolutely no, man. Anytime.
Have you had a chance to try the Mark Gabrett's Bricks Barbecue down in Sarasota Farmers Market by any chance when you're down visiting?
No, I have not.
You need to, man.
Yeah.
You need to go look at it. It's fantastic.
Well, Greg doesn't get down here to visit nearly as much as Connie and Bill get up to Cleveland to visit him.
Well, if you come down, you need to go check out one.
And now we got Katie way over there. Yeah. In the old Seattle area, man.
Yeah. Pacific Northwest. Yeah. I told her I was going to try and hook her up with like Julie Reinhardt and who's my other girl? I'm going to Lene Oxley. See if she can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, those are some people to make you some good food.
Yeah, she can get some proper eats out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Tallahassee, that was fun.
Yeah. Lene is awesome people. So kind of getting ahead and looking at the show, Greg. And talk. Well, one thing I want to go back to the Rome thing for a second. Your favorite smack off ever, as far as smack off segment. Who delivered your one you just enjoy and go back and listen to? Because there's a couple I go back and listen to.
Oh, for Rome?
Yeah.
Oh, anyone that involved Jeff from Richmond winning. The year that he won. I don't know. Jeff from Richmond is my favorite caller, and if anybody has no idea what the Jim Rome Show is all about, then I apologize as you tune out here and potentially go to sleep. But his cadence and the way he brought up all these terms, like sleds and custom suits. He would always call and have this, Jim, this is Jeff from the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I'm on my countryside estate with my custom sled and my Armani suits. And let me tell you something, clones. Any jabroni that thinks that he's going to take me out is sorely, and I mean sorely, mistaken.
So he kind of went redneck Ric Flair.
Yeah, he was totally. I always thought he was like a WWF wrestler in disguise. Right. Yeah, he could cut a promo at a drop of a hat.
Now, the only one that I thought, one of them that I love is when Chael and Jeff from Indy.
Yes, that was a classic.
When Jeff called in early and flubbed it, right? And then because their cadences. Chael has like that booming, like attention-grabbing voice.
Yeah.
And then Jeff kind of has that deep, like, and he has spoken.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was just like back and forth. You're like, and they didn't even win that year.
No.
And it's like, but it was like an awesome. It's just cool. Rome is one of those things, man. I will listen to him every time I get a chance.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a blast, man. And that's a guy that's had some staying power. And you talk about humble beginnings. Holy shit.
I started listening to him when I graduated college in 97. And he had a small handful of stations. He had just gotten into the Cleveland market at that point. And Cleveland turned into be, one of the biggest stations.
Dude, yeah.
He loved Cleveland forever. We kind of dicked him around a little bit since then. But, I love him. I always listen to him.
So when you talk about graduating college, is that DeVry or ITT Tech?
Oh man, I couldn't afford to go to those schools.
You still be paying off.
Damn right.
No, where did you graduate from? What did you study, Greg?
The oldest college in Ohio, which is the Ohio University, founded in 1804, not Ohio State, Ohio University. Yep. Proud Bobcat. And I got a bachelor's of science. What's that?
Frank Stolich.
Yeah, Frank Stolich, Mike Schmidt, just to name a few. And
I got, Mike Schmidt. I didn't know that.
For sure. And I got a degree in sports business.
Sports business?
Yep.
All right. So what were you looking for there? Were you looking for more agents? Were you wanting to, what were you thinking when you got? What was your end game?
Yeah, I obviously wasn't thinking. I can look at it now with 20/20 clear vision and say that I should have never went to college, not having a better idea of tracked on professionalism, or I should have gone and done communications and gotten into the radio thing, and maybe I would have had a career in radio, but I don't even know if I want a career in radio. And having a good gift of gab and ability to relate and build rapport quickly with people, for me, it was a natural thing to go into the sales side of things, which is what I've been doing since '97 in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I will tell you, for me, I graduated from a small college here locally, Florida Southern. And my thought process when I decided my major was, I don't really know what I want to do. I know I wanted to go to med school, and I failed out because I'm just not real good beyond anatomy and physiology too. I'm a little queasy. And so what ended up happening was I looked at it and I was like, all right, I want to do business. What do I want to do? And I'm like, well, if I major in finance, I can always follow the money.
Yep.
So regardless of what I do, if I want to be an accountant, if I want to do this or I want to do that, it's like, as long as you can follow the money, it all makes sense. And so I majored in finance, and that was so there wasn't a whole lot of thought rationale in mine either, besides just, well, do something that's kind of universal, to where you don't get yourself kind of shoeholed in, and much like Travis Clark said tonight on Facebook, two of my favorite shit talkers.
Look, let me address that, because I read that too, and I want people to understand. Salespeople have a terrible stigma attached to them solely because car salesmen suck. And they are aside from realtors, they are the worst salespeople ever. And they ruin it for everybody. A proper salesperson is not somebody that should garner your ire. You should feel so good that you have somebody that is on your side, that is advocating for you, that is making sure that you are making the best decision for you. Now, look, as a sales guy, do I want to build in as much profit as possible on a deal where everybody still feels good? Yeah, because it's how I get paid, Jack. Yeah. And if I wanted to give it all away for free, I wouldn't do it. But if I have the ability to bring across a product that competes with other things in the same market and build value and show you real tangible items to make you pick me, I'm not tricking anybody. I'm laying it all out there, and I'm just convincing you you're making the right decision. I'm not even convincing you. I'm showing you you're making the right decision. And then if I have a better ability than everybody else out there to make sure that you aren't going to have buyer's remorse, which everybody gets it, right? Because the sales guy isn't properly explaining, here's what's going to happen after the sale, and here's what you should do on the maintenance thing, and here's what you do if you have any questions. You can call me. You take all that away, they leave, they're happy, and you're a good sales guy. But nobody does that, so we get a bad rap, and it's bullshit, and I'm sick of it.
Well, I think it's because realtors and salespeople are job jumpers.
Yeah, well, they stay nowhere. They're there for 6 months, and then that's it.
And for me, I mean, I've been in this sector of software for over a decade, and the only thing that I trade on is my name. And I jump jobs about every 3 years.
Yep.
And it's not because I want to. It's because a recruiter calls me, offers me 20% more, and I'd be an idiot not to go do it.
Yeah. The good guys are always being solicited.
But that's because and I will tell you, number one, and Justin hit on it earlier. If you put me in that, quadrant of what I am, I'm a relationship sales guy.
Right.
I've got content, yes, because I've been in the vertical that long. But I'm that guy that's going to come in and go, dude, when we're in the middle of the deployment and you're about to pull your hair out of your head, I'm going to walk up, I'm going to hold your hand, and I'm going to stroke it and say, dude, it's going to be okay.
Right.
You're not going to lose your job. I promise you. And my team behind me is going to make sure the shit gets done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's that. But when people think of sales guys, you're right. They think of that car salesman, that realtor, that guy that's trying to schlep you a refi. And it's just, and they're trying to turn and burn. But if you're really going to be successful, you got to invest in the people you're selling to. At the same time, they have to believe in you, and you got to hold up that end of the bargain.
That's right.
And I think that's something that Tim, if you want to talk about it, you're in a family business, and it's all about sales and execution. Tim, just so you know, Greg, Tim's in the commercial painting business.
Yeah.
They paint a lot of, in Central Florida here, and well, actually beyond the state of Florida, lot of commercial hotels, government buildings, industrial. Tim, what have you learned about that in your years, with you and your pop?
Well, I mean, we just do, we absolutely have to work on that all the time.
Taking care of the customer.
Yep. That's it. It's constantly having to take care of the customer. I had to do it today. It pisses you off half the time because the customer is up in your ass the whole time, but constantly have to work on it.
Yeah.
Well, now let me ask you all this, because I had a friend of mine that was in sales, and he made this statement to me. He made a lot of sense. He was in sales, now he's a teacher.
Yeah.
And, sometimes he says, teachers really are kind of sales guys in a way.
Yeah.
But he says, he said he always had a hard time trying to sell something that he didn't believe in. Do you guys feel the same way?
Mm-hmm.
Can you sell a product that you really
I can't.
believe in?
I can't.
No.
I can't. How about you, Greg?
Well, it all depends how much money's in it for me. No, I mean I think that the first thing that a customer is going to notice is if the sales guy doesn't believe in what he's selling. Yeah. And maybe you don't bring it across verbally, but it's probably going to be somewhere in your nonverbal. And that's going to garner mistrust, or the guy just feels like you're a creep, and that's going to burn you every time.
Well, and that's one of the things here that I think makes us not hiding anything with our little store here, Greg, is the fact of you can taste every sauce and every rub that's on the shelf.
Yeah.
So nobody's going to blind sell you like, man, this makes a great steak. Right. You take it home, put it on something, you're like, dude, this tastes like dog shit. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. Any of my people, whether it be Griff or Timmy or Danielle or Danny or Nicole, I mean, they can all go over there, let people taste it, and that gives them instant credibility. Hey, here's what you should want for this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You don't feel like you're throwing your money away.
Right.
We always ask them, okay, they come in, they say, okay, what's a great rub for chicken? My first question is,
what do you like?
Hot, salty, savory?
Right.
What do you want? They give me that answer. I can put them on 3 different rubs. They're going to buy one. I mean, it's really that easy.
Yeah.
You're just delivering what they want, but you have to have knowledge of the product. And it's funny. They make fun of me all the time.
Yeah.
I know Griff worked today because there's a certain...
there is a certain subset of things that got sold, yeah.
Because there's things that I really love. There's things that I think are good, but I like this better. And I'm going to tell you what I like. I'm not going to sit there and tell you something I don't like.
Yeah.
All right, Greg, I got about 6 minutes before I got to come back on. I got to cut loose for this prima donna coming on after me.
Yeah, heard all about him.
Big deal. Real big deal. Real big deal. But no, one of the questions I want to leave you with is a great interview.
It's really, it's twofold.
Yep.
It's if at all possible, it's being timely, because you can have something really good one Tuesday, and if it waits a week, you know it's going to be dead. The dude that threw the brisket during that concession thing over the summer. Down in Kentucky.
Yeah.
The thing was hot. Now, it did have a little bit longer spin cycle than I thought it was going to have, but I needed to have that guy Tuesday, and waiting an extra Tuesday, I was like, well, in 48 hours, nobody's going to give a shit about this guy anyway. But it would have been a great interview. It would have been great. And I talked to the guy, and he just wasn't having it. And I was like, dude, you realize this really isn't that big of a deal, right? So just come on, get over yourself. Let's do this. Let's live it out a little bit more. And he wouldn't do it. He thought it was a much bigger deal. And soon enough, it was over with. That was it. So it's being able to be timely if possible. But the two biggest things that make a great interview for me are locking in the guest, me doing my homework. For 2-hour show, I'm putting in 15, 20 hours a week to make sure that I have my outlines down and all the stuff kind of tightened up, and I feel good about bringing the show to the air. And then it is the guest. I mean, that's probably the biggest percentage of what makes a great interview. It's the guest. If the guy or the girl or whoever isn't going to bring excitement, inflection, passion to the interview, they could be the most knowledgeable person ever, and if they're talking monotone and deadpan, everybody's like, holy fuck, when is this guy going to get off the air? He's horrible. You could talk about nothing and talk in circles, but be all jazzed up and passionate and excited and bring it across the way. People are going to be like, "Wow, that guy was great."
I don't know what the shit it is, but this guy's got a real passion.
I'm ready to buy. What did he say? So yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's what makes a great interview for me. I mean, it's really the guests in the end, and they got to have the passion. And I hate to say that I put it in emails when I'm corresponding with people. I'm like, hey, by the way, just make sure you're bringing passion and excitement, you know, across the airways, because a lot of people don't see me and they're not going to see you, and they're just listening like radio. And that's how most of the people get the show. It's through iTunes download. So nobody's seeing anybody. It's just so you got to bring it, and that's the scary part for me, because I trust nobody. And it's making sure.
I think that's a huge advantage for me with my show over you is I've met most of these people.
Yeah,
I've talked to them, so I know. I know what you know. Do they, you know, are they a big enough personality? Are they? How can I talk to them to get them to sound excited, to get them, you know what I mean? And you're kind of going into this a little bit blind, but you know, the other thing I tell guys is, dude, it's a Friday night at a contest. You know, I'm probably on my fourth whiskey. You're on your second beer, but that's fair. The fact is this is kind of how we go about it.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, to me, I also think our job as host is to foster that kind of secure, no, there's nobody listening. We're just talking.
Right. We're just talking.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, have you ever told a guest there's a safe word? I've told at least 3.
No, I just like if I tell you we're doing 13 or 14 minutes and I'm giving you the wrap up at 6, draw your own conclusions.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Hey, last question, then I'm going to wrap up so we can flip over to you.
Yeah.
How did Dan from Wachula happen?
How did it happen? I don't know. He called in. You tell me. Who gave him the phone number?
And this is for guys that go way back. And now he just made an appearance a couple shows ago.
Yeah, tried to win an iGrill too.
But can you give a quick background of Dan from Wachula and how it happened?
So I can only imagine that Dan from Wachula is like a Jim Rome guy to a certain degree, because this guy used to call in a lot. I guess he's from Wachula. I didn't even know there was really a Wachula until Matt Barber came up on the scene.
And actually, he spells it wrong.
Yeah, so that's like even worse. And so he calls in, and he sounds like effeminate, and I don't know if it's like a voice or if he's really like that. But he would call in with the express purpose of me hanging up on him. He would make some veiled homoerotic reference that had nothing to do with what we were talking about.
But then take your dick out of my ear.
Yeah, and then he would, like the other night, we were talking. I had Meathead on before I was doing the contest, and he's like, "Oh, this isn't much fun. Let's bring Meathead back, where he talks about it doesn't matter about the size of the meat." I mean, so like, you know, right there, I'm usually running him off the airways, but we're mid-game show. But that's like what he does, and then he stopped calling, and then he's made maybe 2 or 3 calls this year. So I encourage Dan to call early, often. I mean, it's always I just never know what he's going to say. So that's. The genesis is he just started calling, and I started picking up.
Well, Dan from Wachula, if you're listening, Greg will probably have an open segment tonight. You need to get in.
That's right. 10:35, we're open.
Get in quick, lubricated, and deep. All right, my friend?
Get out of here.
Probably got a buzzer.
All right, Greg. We're going to wrap up, bro. It's been a blast. Everybody stay tuned here. I'm going to do 30 seconds outro and drop Greg off. And then, dude, I'm going to be listening in. Enjoy Greg's show. Greg, anything you want to hit on the way out?
No. Appreciate the time. Chad and Griff and Tim. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Bye.